Today we are going to be creating a card using some very pretty designer paper and a bundle. Hello everybody, my name is Joanne Rogers. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Central Alberta, Canada, and I've been designing with you in mind since 1999. Today we are going to be crafting up some cards, well, a card, and I have a couple tips that I want to share with you too. So this is the Dainty Delight bundle, and we are going to use it today. So this is the stamp set, and the stamp set is gorgeous, and I've got some samples to show you at the end of other cards that I've made with these stamps and with these dies. So be sure you stick around for that. So these are available now during the spring catalog, which ends at the end of April. This wasn't available for a period of time because it was so popular, but it is available right now. Perfect for this time of year, spring, and nice light colors. So there's lots of great stamps in there. We're going to use the words mainly today. Well, not mainly. We are going to use the words today, but we're mostly going to use the dies. So there's a bunch of dies in here. There's actually 16, and I don't know if you knew, but down here at the bottom, it actually tells you how many dies. And what I often do is when I put them back onto my piece of magnet here, I just count them to make sure I have 16, because how many of us have had something stick to the bottom or get thrown in the garbage perchance? And when they're little ones like this, like these little leaves, it can happen, or this little one right here. So today, what we're going to be playing with are these two, because I think they probably haven't been used as much as some of the other ones. This one is really popular. You've probably seen that. I've seen this one on lots of cards, but I have some other designs to show you some of the other dies as well. Okay, so we're going to use this guy right here. Here are your measurements that you're going to need. So in your designer paper, you need a 3 3/4 by 5. Then you need another piece of cardstock, either to coordinate it with similar colors, but I'm going with white, and this is 4 by 5 1/4. And then you need your regular card, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. So those are the three that we're going to use, and I'm just going to put these, actually I'm going to glue this down right now so that I can get this put together and put aside. So it's scored at it's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4, and you're just going to put your corners together. So I can see here I've got a tiny little sort of fold back on that corner. So this is going to become the back side of my card. So I don't really worry too much about how hard I'm going to press my bone folder. And you can maybe see that there's a bit of a shine right there from where I pressed it, because this is going to be the back because of that little fold. When I turn it over, I don't see that at all. Okay, so our card is going to go portrait style today, not landscape. So now let me put this on using my seal adhesive. I'm going to put my bone folder away. Using my seal adhesive, and I'm just going to go all the way around. You could use liquid glue for this too if you wanted. And I used my roller on top of my silicone craft sheet because that makes it run just a little bit better for me. I don't have to worry about stopping and starting. I may have to stop and start a tiny bit, but it's just quite a bit better. Okay, so this is what the Mango Melody is going to look like on there. So it's going to be a nice bright card. So that's 3 3/4 by 5. So what we're going to do with this paper though is we're going to cut it. So we're going to cut it just so that we have 1 1/8 cut on one side. So to do this, we can do it one of two ways. So with our paper trimmer from Stampin' Up, we have our measurements along the top. We have a lip here, but we also have measurements on the left-hand side, and we have measurements on the right-hand side up to 1 1/2 inches. So I want it to be 1 1/8. So I'm going to move it over to the 1 1/8 on that side. There's another lip right there, and then just make sure you're right up against the top. There's a scoring blade, which is taupe, and a cutting blade, which is a darker sort of brown. I'm going to move that out of the way just for a moment, and then make sure you have your paper in there straight, and then you're just going to cut up. You don't have to press really hard with this paper trimmer at all, which is really a bonus. Try not to get those mixed up as you take them off of your paper trimmer, because we want sort of a piece that's going to go look like it does look like it connects. So we're going to put that down on top of our paper, on top of our card actually. I'm going to do the same thing. So I could have used these sides for this card, but I just thought it was just a tad bit too busy. So for the card we're making, we want it to be a little bit more toned down. So when you're adding your paper, you're looking to get the same amount of river of white up top and off to the side and to the bottom, as much as possible anyway. And then we're going to do the same thing with our narrower piece. So this is a layout that you can use over and over again. So again, I am going to look for the same amount of space here and here. I'm not as worried about the same amount of space here. I'm more worried about trying to get it more, whoops, and then just straight, oh, that's not too bad, straight all the way down. Because we just want that river of white, because that immediately creates a visual interest for you. So we're done with that. We're going to work now at creating what we're going to put on it. So we have just a piece of our thick basic white, and I'm going to cut with my dies. So I'm cutting with this one here, which is the flower with the stem, and I'm cutting this one, which really doesn't look like much, but it is the flower, sort of a real puffy kind of flower. So we're going to put that down. I'm going to pull in my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, and for this I need to use my bottom plate, which is number 1, and I need to use my 2 cutting plates. Almost looks like I need to get a new one going here pretty soon. I'm going to place my white right on top of that. Move that out just a little bit. Go, and I am just going to try and, I'm going to move that up just a smidge, just because I don't want to waste paper. So I want to go right to the edge here as much as I can. And I'm going to put my other plate down on top, and I'm going to run this through. Now, if you ever have this happen, so I am moving my handle, but nothing is happening. So if you ever have that happen and you have one of these minis, a suggestion is to take your plates and turn them into the letter E. And let me show you what that means. You move them so that you have the bottom one is the bottom of your letter E. Then you have your middle plate, which is like the inside of the E. So think about this as a backwards E right now. And then you have the top of the E. And then try and run it through that way. And it may pull it a little bit, catch it, I guess is the word I want, a little bit easier. And I'm just going to run that through, get my good arm going. I'm sorry about the table movement. Okay, so we have done one of those. I'm going to pull that aside. Now I have a couple of these already done, so we only need one. I just wanted to show you the one. So we're just going to take that off and pull that out, and it should come out. It's a pretty, I haven't had any problems at all cutting this die out. So it comes out pretty easily. It just gets, because those are long, they get a little bit stuck. I'm going to use my Take Your Pick tool to poke out some of these little pieces on this one, and they will go into the garbage. And then we're going to poke this out. Okay, so that's what you have, and I'm going to poke those ones. Now I could have used my die brush on that, which would have been just a quicker little move perhaps, but it's really not too difficult if you use your Take Your Pick tool to do that. Okay, so we don't need our dies anymore. We're going to put those just off to the side. And now I have my pieces. Now, you might have been wondering, why did I use white instead of a color? Well, we are going to change the color on this. Just move my trimmer out of the way. So how are we going to do that? We are going to use some Now, why have I lost the name? Sponge daubers. So this is how I have my sponge daubers saved. So it's just an old cross-stitch folder, and these are the sponge daubers here. So I have grouped them by color. I don't have every one of our colors in here, and the reason is, as I want to use a color, I will create it if I don't already have it. Now you can take some of these and you can use them for different colors. I found that if I want a lighter color at 10 and you've used a darker color, sometimes the color doesn't stay true to what I want. So I have already pulled out the colors that I want to use, which are Shaded Spruce, Mango Melody, and Sweet Sorbet. Now you might notice that I have little markers here. So what I do is I take the ones that I put that off to the side, the ones that I want to save, and I just take in a piece of, this is the labels that has, there's a set of 80 on here, so it's really not that big. And I just write on there what color I have. And then I know that I can just use that color over and over again. It's easy to find. I put it back in that box when I'm done. Just put it on the side like this, and then I have that saved for that color. You can actually take color, if you run these underwater, you can take color out of your Stampin' Spots, look at that, wrong name, out of your sponge daubers, and then let it, so you wash them with, I would just try plain water to start, and then make sure you let them dry. You would never be able to go and use them directly onto a design because they would be too wet. But if you want to, let's say Sweet Sorbet gets retired and we never ever see it again, you could reuse this for another color. I would stay within the pinks and the reds and the corals, however. Okay, so that's a tip for you for how to organize your sponge daubers. Now, one thing I did find as I'm working with this card and your sponge daubers is that you do want to have a wet one handy. So you saw already that I had color on my finger. It's going to become more important to make sure we get that color off. Okay, so let's pull in those colors, those flowers. And I've just got one piece here of my small grid paper, and we are going to color. So we're going to color with our sponge daubers. So I'm going to start with Mango Melody, and I have Sweet Sorbet here as well. Move this off to the side, make sure I'm not getting anything wet on my card. And then I have Shaded Spruce. Now I knew that these colors would go together because Stampin' Up! Artists designed that they would go together, so I knew that they would be a good for us to play with. So I'm going to start with my Shaded Spruce, and I'm just going to use it on the bottom. So I'm going to put your finger right in the hole of the sponge dauber, tap onto your color, and I would just tap off a little bit. So I'm going straight down and dropping off some of the color. And then I'm just going to lightly, because it's a fairly intense color, so I would very lightly go in and give it some color. And you can just dab it right on top. For something that's this narrow, if you go back and forth, I find that you could be just a little heavy-handed, and you could break that, and you don't want to do that. So now I'm going to go in with my Mango Melody, and I'm going to do the same thing, pick up some color, and I'm going to very lightly go over top of the flower as well. And it doesn't matter here if you are precise or not. Okay, so all I've got here, just show you closer up, is that I have yellow on the bottom, a little bit of yellow on the top as well. And I'm going to do the same thing in here. So we're going for fairly intense color on this one. We've got some nice bright colors. I love yellow on flowers. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my Sweet Sorbet. And I always tap off. I always tap off so that I'm not getting a great big blob of red when I place it down first. So if you just get in the habit of tapping off, you'll be much happier. Now here I am going to put it in a circular pattern, and I'm going to come from the top, and I'm going to go over top of these petals. Now it doesn't really look like a flower at this point, but it will. I promise you it will. Okay, so I'm going to put that there, but I'm also going to bring in a little bit more of my mango. I'm going to dot it on right over top of where there's red. And I'm just going to do that again, so that I'm just going to create our flower. Okay, so those are the two pieces to our flower. And I'm going to do one more here. I've already got it cut out, as I said. And I'm going to try and make this one just a smidge lighter. So I'm not even going to pick up my color. So I'm just going to tap it on. I just want a smidge lighter. I just want it to be a little more gentle. So this is how you can get different intensities of color in doing this. So this way, you don't have to have all the colors of paper if you don't want to have them. If you want to have them, even certainly do that. But if you don't want to get all the colors because you're just starting out, or some of them really don't appeal to you that much, then don't. But you can do this, just use white. I would recommend that you always have both the thick and the regular basic white. So this is not looking really much lighter. Well, it is actually. So let me just show you the comparison of the two. So here's the one I just did, and here's the one that I did first. So you can get totally different intensities of color. Okay, so we've got that, and I've already got one that I did. Okay, and we are going to use these in a slightly different way. It looks like I must have had a little bit of glue under there. So pull in your card, and what we're going to do is we are going to use one here. So we want to create a focal point on this line right here. Okay, we're going to break it up a little bit, because when our eye, I'm just going to clean my fingers, when our eye is looking at this card, for the best placement, we want to look probably somewhere up here in the upper thirds or bottom thirds of the card. And here there's like a natural, because of the line we created, we have a natural focal point right here. So we want to what's the word, capitalize on that. So I have one of these guys. Now just I could have put double-sided adhesive on the back of these. The reason why I didn't, and why I'm going to use this glue, is that I wanted them to have a little bit of some spots where the flower moved, where it wasn't all glued right down to the paper. And when you use the adhesive on the back before you cut your dies, you have glue everywhere. So this for me works. So these I just purchased at Amazon. They come in a pack of 10, but I don't know if you can buy them individually. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to take, this gives a really small little bit of glue. So a tiny little bit of glue, much smaller even than you can get with the top of your green glue. So I just hold that back. There's a top on it, and I'm just going to dab glue right in a couple different spots. Now I'm hoping that that was the one that I had down, and if not, it's not that big a deal. You'll see what we have when we're done. It is. Okay, so I'm going to place this one up here, and I want to put another one in there as well. So I'm going to save that little bit lighter one for something else. This little bit darker one I'm going to place down here. Now you don't want them to go right together. Okay, you want either it to be lower or higher. So we're going to put this one down a little bit lower, and I'm not going to put glue completely on the base. Well, maybe I will. For this one I'll do it just a little bit different than the sample that I made for you. And my sample is done in different colors. So you'll see a little bit of the variety that you can achieve. So I think I'm going to move this guy down here. Just place that in place. I'm going to use my light, and we're going to do the same thing. Now this comes out fairly quickly, and I have not yet like splooched all over the place by pressing. That's not what you want to do, by pressing too hard. I'm going to hope that I didn't get too much glue on there when I put it down onto my card. But we'll find out. So this is going to go right over top. I'm going to have a lighter one maybe over here. So it's going to go right over top, but you are going to see this little one underneath here. So place that down, and then this guy here. And so I'm not placing it. You can see that I have it raised a little bit. I want that little bit of movement in there. And then I'm going to place this guy here. Now you can decide at this point if you want to have 3. So I just want to make sure that that's down. Okay, but it just gives you a much fuller flower. And we could do 1 more over top if we wanted. I think I am going to leave it just with 2 because I think it doesn't, and we could do this, but I have something different planned for this guy. So you can create a whole bouquet doing that. Okay, so that's that part. We're going to come back to that and finish it off. So I have Celebrate You that I've stamped, and The Best Is Yet to Come. So Sweet Sorbet. And then, so when you have these, this is a way that you can, it doesn't take very long. I want to show you what I cut these out with. I use, because this bundle doesn't come with a set of dies, this is from the All That set of dies, which is great because it has some shape dies, and this is the one here. And I'm hoping that you can actually see there's a little tiny bevel and a debossed line around the outside of the oval, which really gives it lots of interest. I am going to put some of that linen thread on there. So we are going to cut probably about 20 inches or so of linen thread, and I'm just going to cut that, and we are going to make a double bow. So I'm going to fold it in half. Now if you hate bows, don't put this on there. But if you love making little bows, now this one goes a little crazy. Now you could just, put this on here in a circle or something, but as long as you get it in half, then it's just like it's a single piece. And then just turn it into a bow. This is one way to do it, just like you're tying your shoes. I have another way to make a bow too, which some people say is a little easier. Let me show you that one here before I start playing with this. If I can get it off. There we go. I'll show you the other way to make it. The other way to make it is to make 2 loops. So there's my 1, here's my 2, and then you tie the loops. So you fold them one over top of the other and then bring it through the hole in the middle. Now it looks a little wonky here because we've got lots of ends going around. So we know that we want to use that one to make it. We're going to make our loops a little smaller. It's going to start, don't worry, it's going to start looking more like a bow here pretty soon. I promise. So you just play with this until it's something that you like. Okay, and I like the double bow here on this one because it just seemed to give it a little bit more. So you could play with this forever. Try not to, because this is a handmade card. Right, so now I'm going to take this and put it right on top of my glue dot, lift it off, and I'm going to place it right here. I'm going to worry about trimming these off a little bit later. Okay, and then we're going to put our Best Is Yet to Come down there. Take these guys out of the way. We are coming back to those. I'm going to use some dimensionals for that. Put that on the back here. I'm going to put my dimensionals sort of all over because it's going to have to go over some of this stuff right here. So I want to make sure that it has enough oomph to stay there. One thing I can also do, which I think I am going to do, is I'm going to take a little bit of liquid glue and I'm going to put it on top, if I can get it to come out, put that on top of, hold on just a sec. So I have a little, what do you want to call this, a goober here on the end of my glue. I'm going to take that off, and that usually is enough to get it going. I think I'm actually right near the end of my glue anyway. So I'm hoping it comes out. Yeah, it does. There we go, a little bit more. It is coming out. I know you can hardly see it. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay, it's coming out really good now. Does that ever happen to you? And we're going to put this here. I have a little dot on my DSP, so I'm going to make sure that that goes right over top. Okay, so there's that. Now we can cut off these ends, and I like to have them at different lengths. Okay, now you could cut that shorter if you would like to. We are also going to put in some of these opaque gems. So I've had these a long time, and I realized the other day I have hardly used them. So I want to use some of these white ones here. Down here, I'm probably going to put 5 on here, I think. Put 1 over there. So you want to go around your shape. You don't want to, or in and around your shape. You don't want to go way down here and way up there, because then it's not going to look like your whole shape is cohesive. There's a middle-sized shape here too. Put that guy there. And I think a little one maybe up here. Okay, so you've gone around your shape and yet still part of the shape. Okay, so there's the front of our card. Now what we need to do is just finish off the inside of the card. So we're just going to put in a piece of white that is 4 by 5.5. And I'm just going to put a little bit of our snail. Oh, look at that, I said snail. That is seal, actually. And then we're going to just put 1 flower in here. Now we could put a flower like that, or we may decide just to do the simple flower. And we want it there. I think we're going to put it here. Okay, so this is the one that's a little bit lighter that we created before. Okay, so there's our card, but let's do the envelope. So we have a white envelope. This is one of the stamps in the stamp set. We pull in our sponge daubers again, and we're going to put our color right onto the bottom. So I'm going to pull in my ink a little bit again. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to dab right over top of this one. Now I would start with the green. And the only reason is you don't have a lot of finesse here, right? So I'm going over parts of the flowers themselves, not just over the green part. So you're not going for perfection here. You're going to get an overall effect is what we're going for. So I'm using the Mango Melody sort of on its own there. Now I'm going in with some Sweet Sorbet just on the tips. And then these flowers down here, I don't know what these flowers would be considered, these ones down here. They look sort of like a berry. And I know they're not a berry, and now we're just going to stamp right onto our, let's stamp over here, right onto our envelope. Now you could put this on the back of the envelope if you want, or leave it on the front of the envelope like I just did. Okay. So there is your design. Let me put it here so that you can see it really well. Tell me what you think about that color combo, and if you think that it's really fantastic. It is very pretty. Looking at it in person, I would say that it is a pretty nice color, and I'm going to show you one that is much softer. So this is the one that I made in advance. So this is a little bit softer color. These colors come from the Delicate Desert stamps and collection, actually. And so it's a much lighter, more soft kind of look. And I did do an envelope to match here as well. So those are the 2 different designs. Now what I did with this one is, this is gray granite, but I used a piece of the designer paper, so it's actually got different colors in the paper, and I thought that it went well with the flowers themselves. And something else I did here is I put a longer label, and also I put some of our soft succulent, ribbon as well. Okay, so let me know which one you like. Now I want to show you another totally different layout, or a totally different card with that exact same layout. Okay, so this is another card, exactly the same. We did this in one of our coffee and a card classes a couple weeks ago. Exactly the same kind of idea, but there's no layer. There's no second layer on it. And it's using the conversation bubbles, dies, and stamps. So this one here is another totally different kind of look. So you can see that you can use a lot of what you have, I'm sure, and something that has maybe smaller dies or a smaller die cut to it, just to amp up your cards. Okay, so now I'm going to pull these aside. I want to show you some other designs made with that dainty delight. So I started, the very first thing I made, and I had this at my open house, is a calendar, so a little desk calendar. And these are some of the dies that are in the set as well. And these are just done with some of the shimmer paper. So just almost like a daisy kind of look. I'll put that one down. This one I've had on my blog already. Again, using some of that shimmer paper, but some of the different dies. So some of the, this is actually, these flowers come all from one little die. It's all connected. Not the leaves though. The leaves have two separate dies to make them. And just layering them on in three different colors. So fresh freesia, blushing bride, and then that shimmer. So there's another one. This guy here is very, very simple. So really simple. So this could be a sympathy card, and it's very, you can probably hardly see, but there's a little bit of balmy blue ink just in the background to change the color a little bit. This is a die, and I cut the die down. So the die itself is quite a bit longer. Let me just pull it in to show you. So here's the die itself. Okay, so that is the original die. I cut it once and then cut it down. I think I cut it once. Yeah, I think I cut it only once, and then I cut it down. So you can get a different look out of that same die, and then just some of our butterflies. This guy here is different flowers again. I thought they looked a little bit like lilacs, so I changed them out and put them in purples. I did a little bit of blending again in behind with some fresh freesia, and we turned this one into a sympathy card. Then this one here is same one we used today, is stamped and embossed on black, and then I cut it out of a piece of white just for a really bold black and white card. And I have two more. No, I have one more. And then this one here, we did a live on this one. So this guy here was using some of the paper from Celebration, and shows you the embossed, again, just on white on the watercolor paper. So there are so many different things that you can do with these stamps and these dies. And if you would like to get them, please just email me or send me a message, and we can order them for you for sure. They are still available. Okay, I hope you had a great time. I hope you learned a thing or two, and we will see you again next week at 1 p.m. Mountain Time. And be sure to share and put comments in and follow me and just all of that great stuff. Thanks very much, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.